she didn't come to be seen. She came because this is where she lives. The Rolls-Royce Spectre humming beneath her, the harbor glittering to her left, the casino lit up ahead like it was built specifically as a backdrop for this exact moment. She pulled up, stepped out, adjusted nothing, and walked straight in. And every single person on that pavement turned to watch without fully understanding why. That is Monaco. That is what this city does. And today we are bringing you the most extraordinary lady supercar arrivals, the most breathtaking displays of the billionaire lifestyle, and the moments that remind you why no other city on earth comes close to what happens here on an ordinary Tuesday when the right person turns the right corner in the right machine. Stay until the very end, because the final arrival in this video is the kind of thing that makes 11-year veterans of Monaco spotting put their cameras down and just watch with their own eyes. There's a version of luxury that is about showing people what you have. And then there is Monaco luxury, which operates on an entirely different frequency. In Monaco, the goal is never to impress the crowd. The crowd is irrelevant. The goal is personal excellence, the finest car, the finest table, the finest life, pursued entirely for its own sake. When you stop needing the crowd's approval, something interesting happens. The crowd cannot take their eyes off you. This is a paradox at the heart of Monaco, and it explains everything you are about to see. The city itself is barely 2 square kilometers. You could walk its entire length in 20 minutes. And yet within those 2 square kilometers lives the most extraordinary concentration of private wealth anywhere on Earth. The harbor holds superyachts worth hundreds of millions of euros lined up like they are parked at a shopping center. The restaurants require connections that money alone cannot buy. The apartments overlooking the Grand Prix circuit change hands for prices that make headlines in countries where the entire national budget is smaller. And the streets are where it all becomes visible. Because in Monaco, the car you drive is not a status symbol. It is a personal statement. It is a physical expression of who you are, what you value, and how seriously you take the craft of living well. The first arrival that set the tone for everything came on a golden Thursday afternoon, when the light over the Mediterranean was doing what it only does in Monaco in summer, turning everything slightly amber, slightly cinematic, slightly like the world has been color-graded by someone who has only ever known beautiful things. A Ferrari SF90 Stradale came around a bend near the Hotel de Paris, and the sound hit first. A hybrid V8 producing 1,000 horsepower, and at the specific throttle position she was holding through that corner, the exhaust note was somewhere between a scream and a symphony, high, layered, harmonic in a way that does not seem possible from a combustion engine. But Ferrari has been doing impossible things with sound for 70 years, and the SF90 is the current peak of that obsession. The finish was Rosso Fiorano, a red so deep and so rich it looked almost burgundy in the shade and ignited back to pure red in the sunlight. The carbon fiber roof panel, the carbon wheels, the Assetto Fiorano package aerodynamic additions. Every option selected with the precision of someone who understood exactly what each one added and why it mattered. This was not a car configured by a dealership. This was a car configured by someone who had done the research, made the decisions, and knew the difference between every single line on the option sheet. She parked it with one smooth movement, stepped out. A group of tourists who had been photographing the casino turned their cameras without a word being exchanged between them. Pure instinct. She did not acknowledge them. She was already moving. Later that same evening, just as the square was reaching its peak summer energy, tables full outside the Café de Paris, spotters line along the barriers, the usual parade of incredible machinery moving slowly through. A Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Roadster arrived from the direction of the port and changed the atmosphere of the entire square in approximately 4 seconds. The SVJ is the most extreme version of the Aventador that Lamborghini ever produced. Naturally aspirated V12 producing 770 horsepower. A soundtrack that is not comparable to anything else in automotive history. Raw, violent, operatic in a way that makes people genuinely emotional if they're standing close enough when it opens up. The SVJ held the Nürburgring production car lap record when it was released. Only 800 roadsters were ever made worldwide. Getting one required patience, connections, and a relationship with Lamborghini that most people will never have regardless of their budget. This one was finished in a pearl white with exposed carbon fiber accents that caught the fading evening light, and threw it back differently every time she moved. The roof was off. She drove it the way you drive something that you are deeply familiar with, unhurried, precise, aware of every millimeter of space around it, without needing to think about being aware. When she came to a stop and the engine cut, the silence that followed was the loudest thing that had happened on that square all evening. People needed a moment before they started moving again. 2 days later, on Avenue Princess Grace in the late morning when the boutiques were just opening and the street had that particular Monaco calm that only exists before midday, a Bentley Mulliner Backel appeared and immediately made every other car parked within 100 meters look like it had forgotten to get dressed. The Backel is not a standard Bentley. It is not even an expensive Bentley. It is a Bentley that exists in its own separate universe from the rest of the catalog. Only 18 were ever made. Each one took the Bentley Mulliner team, the coach-building division that handles the brand's most bespoke commissions, over a year to complete. The carbon fiber bodywork, the open-top configuration, the hand-stitched interior using materials personally selected by the individual buyer. This particular Backel had been finished in a color developed specifically for its owner, a deep teal that shifted toward green in certain light, and toward blue in others, with a quality of depth that made it look less like paint and more like something that had been grown rather than applied. Drop a comment and tell us which arrival today hit you hardest. The Koenigsegg CC850 in manual through Casino Square, the Pagani Utopia at Golden Hour, the Lamborghini SVJ that silenced the entire square, or that Bentley Backel that made a parked car feel like an event. Let us know below. We will see you in the next one.